Fellas, we've been here in Nashville for a few days talking about really a lot of possibilities. And, one of the things that has kind of come up is just the collaboration maybe between like the band and orchestra area and drum set, which obviously is Will's forte here. And so maybe some thoughts on your end about, we have great drum set artists and they do their thing, and we have, excellent band and orchestra people, performers, teachers, etc. Ways that we can maybe kind of bring those two areas together.
Well, the silos don't need to exist.
Don't need to exist.
It's music, and it's actually the dean at our school at USC. We've been talking a lot about that. Of course, there's a jazz department, there's a contemporary music department, classical. But we've been talking about uniting and expressing ourselves together as we're talking about. And it's an effort. There's a lot of people that have their feet stuck in the ground.
Of course, of course, yeah. Well, because we all make our way forward, in many cases, by isolating on our own needs and our own skill areas, and getting better and better, and in some cases mastering that. But
recognizing that it is music, and it is a creative force, and there's a lot of real estate there, that a lot of creativity that can occur, and it's a new day, and we're being I guess pioneers, if you will.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for us to pioneer in this venture of breaking down the silos and finding ways for us to unite musically and in expression.
And I'm lucky enough in kind of the things that I'm doing and actively involved with, that like drum set is a huge part of what we do with front ensembles and marching band type of situations. And so yeah, it's been a lot of fun with a lot of the source music we pick. It's coming from those kind of combo style artists, and so us being able to integrate the B&O side of things with keyboards and timpani and all that,
and drum set.
Right. Yeah, it's like all of that is really working hand in hand. Even like concert percussion ensemble, I'd say drum set. Maybe in non-traditional ways, might not look like a drum set, but we're using all the instruments. We're playing with just as many kick drums and hi-hats and things in our classical percussion ensembles as we are any of our keyboard instruments. So it's been fun doing that integration.
Yeah, like wouldn't it be cool to get the group that you teach, Blue Coats or whomever, and get this guy there fronting the group. Like the impact that something like that could have, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go to Berkeley when I was teaching at UMass for a long time, and we would take the Dean Anderson ran this Berkeley week of percussion, and we would take the drum line out and we would play with the big band, their top big band in Berkeley's tiny tiny stage and whatnot, and what an experience. I mean, it was that, and then we did some other gigs different years where there would be 2 or 3 guest artists. Casey Sherrill would do it, John Robinson did it, Marvin Smitty Smith.
Yeah.
We're talking,
Cats.
These are players, right? And we'd play a tune, and then they open it up in the middle for solos and blah, 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 and then, the drum line would come back in and that whole thing. But just what a great vision, and what a great outcome, because it really did open up a lot of people to how those things can work together. And we would bring, I would bring Casey and Steve Wilkes out to school, and they would do a summer camp with the drumline part thing. So it's just interesting, It just seems like there's a lot of possibilities toward that end.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it cool that we can be involved with Pearl and we can be talking on this level and creating whatever a new buzz in this direction? I'm thrilled.
Yes.
to be involved.
Likewise, and it feels like we've been granted the opportunity to, you know, kind of blaze a path.
Amen.
You know, we really can make a difference. It will take a lot of effort, right?
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
sacrifice, but this is what we do.
This is what we do.
This is what is part of our makeup. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt, your role at Michigan is, you know, you're working with the equipment area in addition to your teaching responsibilities, and it seems like this has come up in our conversations. Like, I'll just say equipment maintenance, and it could incorporate tuning and whatever, you know, repair and other things of that sort. Can you maybe speak to the importance of that for some of the young students that are out there, and how that can help them progress in their path?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing for me is that I've been a gear nerd my entire life. You know, like you know, from the time I was growing up, I was the one always tinkering with technology, wanting to set up my parents' VCR. You know, I was always the one wanting to figure out how things worked. When I marched Cavaliers as a senior in high school, my nickname was MacGyver. I was the person that got, you know, kind of assigned to, like, let's figure out how to mount this instrument on this other instrument, and using the clamps that we have. So figuring out all the different ways to do that. And so yeah, I really just kind of, for me growing up and kind of getting to know how all the instruments worked, was foundational to me making great sounds on the instruments. And I think that's such a big part of the maintenance element, is like, if you know how to maintain your instrument and get it to the point where you can tune it the way you want it to sound, it's allowing you a better artistic voice as well.
Sure.
You know, because you can choose, like a concert snare drum can have a bunch of different timbres to it based on head selection and tuning and even the snare adjustments. And you can sound like different players just by simply how you're tuning the drum. And I think that's been the most fun thing for me in my new role at Michigan, of being able to help students in a different way of approaching sound concepts from a instrument and maintenance first process.
Yeah, that's
really
interesting.
Yeah.
Rather than necessarily your first, you know, assignment being, I'm in the studio with you,
Totally. Yeah,
teaching you whatever the next, you know.
Yeah. Because I think that's such an interesting thing. Like, when I was in school at MTSU, like, I had consciously gone through and, like, I knew every instrument in the school, and so it's like that one drum that maybe nobody ever touched because it didn't look like a new drum, is some, you know, old vintage drum. It's like, no, for this would be the perfect sound. Let's pull that drum out because I think it'll fit this really well. Because I had that sound in my head from when I had gone through and experimented with all the different instruments that we owned. And yeah, knowing your inventory, especially if you're a high school or college student, knowing what you have available to you.
Gigantic.
Yeah, it's like
gigantic.
Because like, I think that so often students see, like, on their part, like, snare drum, and they just grab a snare drum, or they see suspended cymbal and just grab a cymbal. But, like, why are you picking that sound? Why was that the choice you made? Have you consciously thought of that?
Right.
Is it the same for you, quality standard wise? I mean, there's a certain feel in tuning a lug, right, as you go around. And I'm pearl spoiled. So
It's a good thing.
I'm pearl spoiled. And the swing of the lug as I'm going around is a good feel. And I feel I can arrive at that point of that sound I'm looking for very quickly. It's the same for you.
100%. And like, I deal with a lot of different brands at Michigan, because just historically, again, we're talking about inventory that's 100 years old plus for some of these instruments. And yeah, you tune some of the other brands. I won't name any names, but like, it's like, oh man, like, even just the way the lugs work.
It's rough.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't what I'm used to. And then you get on one of the pearl drums. And
Even
it's like,
as
okay,
it gets,
everything's so smooth and easy to tune.
yeah,
And,
even as it gets older. I mean, it
sure.
remains its
Even if 100 years.
Yeah.
Well, which speaks volumes about the importance of it, that you can have an instrument become vintage, essentially, like that, because it's cared for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
and the materials used to manufacture it are at that a standard that we love and are spoiled by.
Right. Now, in your case, Will, so you're out, you're on the road, you're performing, you're doing your thing. Do you actually get in and tech your gear, or do you
Most
have
staff.
Yeah.
We're beyond the road crew opportunity. We can't afford to bring a crew out with us, unfortunately. But the beauty of it is, I'm a little bit on the gear nerd side as well. I love the hands-on thing. It's a therapeutic experience for me to tweak the kit, get it, make it my fingerprint, and go do the gig. So I'm changing heads. I'm tuning, of course. I'm positioning, obviously, and I bring a set of cymbals, and my rider requests a certain level of Pearl equipment, and they do the best they can.
Sure, sure.
But if it's got the P, if it's got the Pearl, I'm gonna be fine. I mean, the show must go on,
right? Of course,
and I'll make it happen. But the Pearl experience out on the road it's beautiful. It's just, I get there, I create my home, and I'm gone.
It's interesting that you talk about, in a sense, not taking the chance with a tech crew, and having done projects like Brass Theater and Blast and whatnot, and this is your area, that is like amplification and sound reinforcement, and not so much sound design with those projects, but we would get into a different venue when this was traveling around, a different venue each performance, and there would be different audio crews there, and so like they're mixing this stuff, and we would be up kind of rehearsing, and that was their chance to sort of get a sense of what it was. But it was like they're like doing what they think it is, right? And it's like, wait a second, we wrote the music. I think we kind of know what it's supposed to sound like. And it was just interesting because they were not always exactly the most receptive, right, to that.
Well said.
So. But it made me think back to that.
We experience that often. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of carrying our sound guy with us as well.
Got it.
And there's 4 members of Yellow Jackets, and that sound guy is the 5th person, the 5th member. And sometimes you're in a venue where there could be a guy who specializes in whatever, rock music, right? And he's pushing the subwoofers and all of the low end, and that's not our music.
Right.
So you politely communicate with the person that, hey, perhaps there's an opportunity to turn down those subs a bit.
And perhaps there's an
Yeah, I mean, just like tuning a drum set, like the choices that you make on the audio side are just as connected. The way that you're compressing the instruments, the way that you're boosting the subs. All of that affects the sound, just like tuning the drum. And it's having your dedicated person is really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a luxury.
Now you guys are both, your teachers, your performers, your composers and arrangers, clinicians. The gamut is wide. I mean, authors. There's a certain. So there's more than just like one or two things you're doing that is part of your career. And I'm just curious, like what kind of conversations you might have with your students when you have them at school, right, before you release them out into the world to make their living. What kind of conversations you have about like entrepreneurship and the things that are kind of beyond just becoming a master of your craft, your instrument. What kinds of things do you guys talk about with them?
That very thing, and I'm sorry to jump in, but I'm often put in a position of being a mentor for a final project, and it's the last thing they do before they walk out of the door. And part of that communication with me is to talk about the potential of utilizing the resources at the school to launch some sort of business-oriented idea, right? Where you potentially create a pathway, because after graduation you've taken off the cap and gown. It's like, okay, what do I do now, right? And so if you could if your final project can involve some sort of business idea
that's great.
that could plant the seed. But also, you spoke of, the many hats. It's very important for a young musician to be aware that your opportunities are so much broader when you can do multiple things. I mean, if you're just a drummer musician, then your scope, your opportunities are limited, right? Whereas
not a lot of Buddy Riches left. This is, I'm just doing this.
Right. But it's surprising to me how many students feel that that's all I want to do, right?
Sure.
And it's our job to let them know, to reinforce the fact that, hey, you can teach, you can write, you can but play the other instrument.
And all those things make you a better musician.
Yes.
Right? It's
and a broader contributor to the overall picture.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I preach the idea of having the Venn diagram of what your life consists of. It's like what you think you're going to do and what you will end up doing are different. and the more skill sets you have, the more opportunities you're going to get. And I think that's such a key thing of, like, and my Venn diagram, throughout my career has changed dramatically. It's, morphed of where there's certain times where playing is a big part of it. There's certain times where playing is a very small part of it. There's certain times where like right now I'm doing a lot more audio and electronic stuff than I am even percussion stuff, and a lot of times. And that's not necessarily something I ever planned or really that was a goal. It just kind of ended up happening, and you get the opportunities. And I think being willing to, okay zagging.
You've placed yourself in situations, though, where that kind of an opportunity did become available.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is stretching yourself into different areas of the business.
Yeah.
That's important.
That is the start of it, though, right? I mean, you have to be aware that I can go for this. I can do this, right? It's not impossible.
Yeah. I always also kind of talk about the idea of, like, everyone has heard, like, right place, right time. Like, that's what everyone thinks, and that's how a lot of our opportunities have come up for all of us. Right place, right time. But the third one we don't talk about enough is right preparation.
Woo.
You're only in the right place and right time if the preparation's there. There
you go.
And so, because, like, you think about how many times that you've gotten called about, hey, we need somebody to come do this. You're unavailable. Who do you recommend? You're only thinking about the people that are ready for that.
That's right.
You have a lot of people close to you, but a lot of those people might not be ready for that type of opportunity. So they're not even going to be on your list until you feel like they have that preparation and they're ready for it.
Yeah.
Amen.
What a great word. The preparation word. Because that's a lot about what am I doing when nobody's looking.
Totally.
Right? It's not necessarily when you're involved in the act of rehearsal or teaching, it's all of that happens prior to. So, and speaking of preparation, are we ready for this potential impact of AI on our on our musical lives? And
are we ready?
How do you think that might affect your what you're doing with your careers, and in turn, maybe how do you see it kind of impacting your students?
Oh, wow. I've always had a rebel spirit.
We've noticed.
You've seen me try some things, and it's like, oh yeah. Okay, Will. So I'm excited. I understand the concern and the fear, but it's a tool, and it's a tool that if you're not tapping into it at this point in some way, which we all are. I mean, how many Google searches have we done recently?
Oh my Lord, yeah.
That's it. And so, but to go deeper, if you're not tapping in it on some level, you're potentially being left behind.
Yes.
And because there are companies being created to consult you in your AI activity, and they can help design an AI agent or device to help your business go forward. And so it's our job in the position that we are in to let our students know. And I don't know your experience, but I'm a little surprised at some of the fear in the students regarding AI. And I wasn't generally expecting that. I was expecting them to be the rebel spirit that I am. But in some instances, you really have to, kind of explain it and, look, there's an opportunity here. And, so it's
That's great.
It's really fascinating.
It's great advice, really. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been a tool. I mean, it's just another tool in the toolbox, and I think that like what we've been using it for in the marching arts is really a visualization tool, a brainstorming tool. So you come up with ideas, you come up with concepts, and it's like, man, what would that look like? Well, guess what? We can now describe. Hey, can you create an image of like this past year? I know Michael Rayford, our scenic designer with Bluecoats. He got some of the idea for the cubes and everything, and was like, let me just see if I can do a quick little AI version of what this could look like. And it's not anywhere close to what it ended up being, but it was that tool to be able to show somebody else, here's kind of the thing that I could be thinking about. And it got wheels turning and the inspiration juices flowing a little bit. And the other side is just the organization tools that come around for that, of being able to have a better idea of your schedule or, kind of email summaries and all these things that really work well for us, for sure. And then also kind of moving into the musical part of AI. I mean, like what the AI doesn't have, at least not yet, is intention behind it.
Wow.
They might have ways of having something end up sounding good. And there's some AI, like I'm on the beta version of like the Google kind of music creation AI system. It's very interesting, where you can just describe a scene or describe a song, even put lyrics in, and it'll create it all. But for me, who kind of primarily works in like the marching arts and like with live musicians, it doesn't know why I voiced the chord that way to fit better on a vibraphone.
Right.
So even if it ends up sounding like a marching band piece, that doesn't mean that it's playable or usable. They're not going to know why I would choose those different voicings, why I would choose to do that permutation, even if they can make something that kind of sounds similar. So
the artistry is not necessarily caught up yet, maybe,
right. The emotional content.
That was the one I was just going to say is also the feeling that we get from music, the feeling we get from being in each other's presence, the exchange of that, and how that impacts people emotionally. That's maybe still reserved for us humans.
So to think ahead, what happens when it does? What happens when it gets closer to doing that? So what do we do then? And what kind of tool can we use it for at that point? So it's something to think about. I mean, we don't have to answer that question, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really like very similar to what happened to like studio musicians with the advent of MIDI sequencing and really high-end virtual instruments. It's like, yes, did it affect some things? Absolutely, but like you're not going to go see the latest Star Wars movie with a MIDI mock-up playing in the background. It's just not. It's not going to happen, And I think that that's really important to know that like some of these things, the live performance element or the humanistic element, no matter how close AI gets, that's what is so cool about it. And I think we're always going to have those elements of human nature that we want to have come through.
Amen.
Regardless of in a more functional use. You think about the background music in some elevator. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, that might get replaced. But, but I think the more focused, I think it's going to help us focus our artistry a little bit more.
Thank you for saying that. Because I clearly recall the moment I walked into a session and on the console or in the console control room area was that first Lynn drum machine. And, what's your reaction as a drummer, right? Are you threatened or
Yeah.
are you like, wow, here's where we're going, or this is
Right.
coming up, right?
We've talked about that a lot in
Yeah.
the last couple of days with the increasing popularity of electronic drum kits
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and other electronic musical instruments, and how they impact even how we write music. I mean, and it's opened it up for us, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you're living it.
Yeah.
This is well, both of you are living it, but you're creating. That's part of your livelihood.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fantastic. It really is.
So it wasn't to answer the question. It wasn't a threat to me. It was something I was excited about, and I ended up becoming the nerd person of how do you program this thing?
Totally.
How can I use it as a tool and put
you're-
something in my pocket?
You're curious.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're curious,
Yeah.
and that's an important. I think that's an important ingredient to any person who's actually successful. There's a curiosity that they
Absolutely.
have.
Not to keep hogging, I'm sorry.
No, this is fine.
I'm also flashing back to the Amadeus movie, and this is I'm really
great movie.
yeah, that's a great flick. I remember the scene where he's in the bed with his rival, and he's saying, I hear flutes on E flat, whatever. He's spelling out the chord, and his rival is writing these things, but the soundtrack that we're hearing as the audience, we're hearing those flutes, right? And it's like, wow, wouldn't that be great? Can you use AI for that? I hear James Brown.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, no.
Funny.
So, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for being here. This has been a great couple days.
Absolutely.
And dare I say that, like, the example of us, we're talking about the connection of in person.
Yeah.
This is a fabulous example of
Amen.
it. What we've been able to experience the last couple days, and really appreciate your wisdom and your willingness to be here. So, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
A lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.